Have you ever noticed that there is a voice in your head that just never stops talking?
Oh, yeah. It really doesn't.
Right. I mean, take a second and really tune into it right now. It comments on what you're doing.
Mm.
It judges the people walking by, or, it argues with your boss who isn't even in the room.
Absolutely.
And for some reason, it just loves to replay that really embarrassing thing you said at a party like 5 years ago.
Always at 2 in the morning, too.
Exactly. So for most of us, this constant overlapping mental chatter, it just feels completely normal. It's sort of the background noise of being human. But what if it's not? According to the ideas we're unpacking today, which are rooted in Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, this normal state is actually a profound dysfunction.
It's a deeply unsettling premise when you first encounter it because, well, the suggestion is that the voice we have listened to our entire lives, the voice we consult for literally every major life decision, might not actually be who we are.
Which is a huge pill to swallow.
It is. And worse, the material suggests that listening to it blindly is the main engine driving almost all of our suffering.
That is a massive claim, and it's exactly what we are going to explore in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are tackling the concept of the ego.
Yes, the big one.
But don't worry, we are going to strip away the complex spiritual jargon entirely.
Yeah.
We want to figure out exactly what this false self actually is, mechanically speaking. We'll look at how it drives massive historical events, why it makes us buy things we don't even really like, and why we get this weird thrill from arguing with strangers on the internet.
Oh, that's a big part of it.
Definitely. And ultimately, our mission today is to hand you some incredibly simple tools to step out of this unconscious state while you're just doing your everyday chores.
Yeah, the intention here isn't to drag you into some dense philosophy.
Right.
We really just want to facilitate a moment of clarity, a real aha moment where you can suddenly recognize the imposter operating inside your own mind.
To get to that moment, though, we actually need to zoom way out first.
Mm.
Before we can diagnose the voice in our own heads, we have to look at the macro evidence of what this voice has done to humanity as a whole. And when you look at human history through this lens, it doesn't really look like a steady march of progress.
No, it doesn't.
It looks, quite frankly, like a history of collective insanity.
It really does. And, if you look closely at ancient wisdom traditions, they've actually been diagnosing this for millennia.
Right.
Underneath all their varying rituals and surface-level differences, the core insight is remarkably consistent. Like in Hinduism, the normal human state is described using the concept of Maya.
Which translates to something like the veil of delusion, right?
Exactly, delusion. And Buddhism uses the word dukkha, which points to an inherent suffering or just an unsatisfactoriness in the human condition. So the consensus across these massive, disparate cultures is that we are, by default, operating under a collective mental illness.
And the proof of this illness seems to be what happens when our sheer intelligence operates without any underlying awareness. Because human beings are undeniably brilliant. I mean, we map the human genome, we compose these beautiful symphonies, we land rovers on Mars. But that same brilliant intelligence has a terrifying dark side.
It does.
When it's driven by this underlying dysfunction, it becomes devastatingly destructive.
The 20th century makes this dynamic impossible to ignore, honestly. Let's just look at the First World War.
Okay.
So by 1914, the human mind had reached incredible heights. We had invented the internal combustion engine. We had made these massive leaps in chemistry and metallurgy.
We were highly advanced.
Right, a highly advanced species.
Yeah.
But because that intelligence was completely devoid of conscious awareness, those brilliant inventions were instantly weaponized.
Instantly.
We used the combustion engines to build tanks and submarines and chemistry to create poison gas. Millions of men were slaughtered in trenches over a few miles of mud. The phrase the source material uses to describe this is intelligence in the service of madness.
Wow. Intelligence in the service of madness. It makes me think of a highly advanced supercomputer.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, you have this incredible piece of hardware capable of rendering beautiful art and solving complex equations, but deep in the operating system, there is a fundamental virus.
Right.
And the more powerful the computer gets, the faster and more efficiently the virus can destroy things.
That is a brilliant analogy because the hardware is human intelligence, but the virus is the ego.
Yeah.
And when you look at history, you see this virus scaling up and taking over entire populations. You see the mass exterminations under Stalin's regime, or the horrific industrialized cruelty of the Holocaust.
Or the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia.
Exactly, where a quarter of the entire population was murdered by their own government.
And it's not just confined to modern political states either. You can look back at the Middle Ages with the Inquisition, where religious institutions literally tortured and killed people in the name of a purportedly loving God.
Which makes no logical sense until you factor in the ego. The ideology changes, right? It can be far left, far right, religious, or secular, but the underlying virus operates exactly the same way.
How so?
The virus convinces a group of humans to conceptualize another group of humans as enemies or obstacles. Once the mind labels someone as an abstract concept rather than a living human being, unspeakable violence inevitably follows.
So it's the conceptualization that's the danger.
Yes. Greed, fear, and the lust for power aren't the root causes of these atrocities. They are just the symptoms of this deeper virus.
So we have to ask the obvious question here.
Yeah.
What is the virus? If human history is just a series of symptoms, we need to put the virus itself under a microscope.
Let's do it.
Let's zoom in from global history to the individual human mind. In simple terms, what exactly is the ego? Because I think we misuse that word all the time.
We absolutely do.
Like if someone brags about their promotion, we say, wow, huge ego. But we're talking about something much more foundational than just arrogance.
We are. Arrogance is just one tiny surface-level manifestation of it. In this context, the ego is simply the illusory sense of self.
Illusory, so it's fake.
Exactly. It is the fundamental mistake of confusing the infinite, silent depth of who you are with the noisy stream of thoughts in your head and the temporary labels you attach to yourself.
So it's basically a glitch in how we use the word I.
Yes, a glitch.
There's a fascinating example we found in the text regarding how this glitch starts in early childhood.
Oh, the toy example.
Yeah, imagine a young kid playing with a plastic toy. Another kid comes over and takes it away, and the first child completely melts down. I mean, devastating, inconsolable tears.
Right, and let's break down the mechanics of why that child is crying.
Okay.
It's not because the plastic toy has any intrinsic, irreplaceable value. If the other kid hadn't taken it, the first child probably would have gotten bored and thrown it under the couch 10 minutes later anyway.
True.
The intense emotional suffering happens because of a mental concept, the concept of mine.
The child literally merged their sense of self with a piece of plastic.
Yes, exactly. The child unconsciously invested that object with a sense of identity. The word I became entangled with the toy. So when the toy was taken away, the child didn't just lose an object, they felt like a piece of their actual self had been ripped away.
Wow.
This is the mechanism of identification. It comes from the Latin words meaning to make the same as. The ego is born when we make ourselves the same as our thoughts and our possessions.
So the ego is essentially an identity thief.
Oh, I love that term for it.
It's like a parasite that hijacks your brain, constantly using the word I. It points to your gender, your profession, your political beliefs, your painful memories, and even your car, and it whispers, this is who I am. This is me.
Yes.
And it has us so completely fooled that we defend these concepts as if we are defending our physical lives.
And we've been fooled by this for centuries, even at the very highest levels of intellectual thought. Look at the famous 17th century philosopher René Descartes.
Oh.
He was trying to find one undeniable bedrock truth of existence. He stripped away everything he could possibly doubt, and he landed on his famous conclusion, I think, therefore I am.
Which, to be fair, sounds completely bulletproof. Like, if I am sitting here experiencing a thought, I must exist to be having the thought.
It sounds bulletproof until you look at the mechanism of consciousness itself. It actually took almost 300 years for another philosopher, Jean-Paul Sartre, to point out the massive flaw in Descartes' logic.
What was the flaw?
Sartre realized that the consciousness that says I am is entirely different from the consciousness that thinks. Descartes equated the process of thinking with the essence of being. So he didn't find the ultimate truth, he just found the root of the ego.
Okay, we need to slow down here because this is where the entire paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
How do we actually separate the thought from the watcher of the thought?
Let's try a thought experiment with whoever's listening right now.
Okay, listeners, get ready.
Wherever you are, just stop for a second and try to predict what your very next thought is going to be. Just wait for it.
Okay, I'm trying it.
What's happening?
There's a gap. Like a brief silence where I'm just intensely waiting.
Right. In that gap, you are highly alert, but you're not thinking. Then, eventually, a thought arises, like, I need to check my email, or this is a weird deep dive.
Yeah, exactly.
Now ask yourself, who was the presence waiting for the thought? And who is the presence that noticed the thought arrive?
Wow. It's almost like stepping back from a painting you've had your nose pressed against your whole life.
Yeah.
The awareness watching the thought is completely separate from the thought itself.
Yes. If there were nothing but thought inside you, you wouldn't even know you were thinking. You'd be like a dreamer who is completely lost in the dream, totally unaware that they are dreaming.
That makes so much sense.
The very fact that you can observe your own mental chatter proves that you are not the chatter.
But if we have this false identity, this identity thief made of thoughts, it has a major problem, doesn't it?
It does.
Because an imposter constantly has to work to keep up the charade. If the ego is just a mental illusion, how does it survive? How does it maintain control over us day after day?
It survives by constantly feeding. Because it's an illusion, it always feels precarious. It feels incomplete. Its underlying unconscious mantra is always, I am not enough yet.
I am not enough.
So it is constantly hungry for more things to attach itself to, just to make its boundaries feel more solid. Its primary diet consists of wanting, separation, and conflict.
Which is the perfect explanation for the absolute absurdity of modern consumerism.
Oh, completely.
We have this bottomless I am not enough feeling, and we try to fill it with stuff. We engage in massive object proliferations, like trying to quench your thirst by drinking salt water. You drink more, but you just get thirstier.
And corporate greed thrives on this exact mechanism.
Right. We treat the planet's resources and even other human beings merely as digits on a spreadsheet to acquire more because our collective ego constantly demands it.
The advertising industry is built entirely on this psychological loophole. They very rarely sell a product based on its actual utility anymore.
No, they don't.
They sell identity enhancers. When you watch a car commercial, they aren't talking about fuel efficiency or the transmission. They are implicitly promising that if you buy this car, you will be powerful, you will be adventurous, you will be more fully yourself.
You aren't buying a vehicle. You're buying a prosthetic piece of identity to attach to your ego.
Exactly, a prosthetic identity.
Okay, I want to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
I think a listener might hear this and think, hold on, is it really a psychological disease to just want a nice car or a comfortable house? Or let's look at the conflict side of things. The material claims the ego feeds on complaining and getting angry. But isn't anger a highly evolved, useful tool?
That's a very fair question.
Right. Like if I go to a restaurant and pay for a hot meal and the waiter serves me completely cold soup, shouldn't I be mad? If we never got angry, wouldn't people just walk all over us?
This is a crucial distinction that Tolle makes. There is a massive difference between taking practical action and feeding the ego.
Okay, break that down for me.
Let's look at the cold soup. There is absolutely no ego in stating a neutral fact to improve a situation. If you call the waiter over and say, "Excuse me, this soup is cold, could you please heat it up?" that is an objective fact. You are taking assertive action in the present moment.
So the action itself isn't the problem. Where does the ego slip in then?
The ego slips in when you take the cold soup personally.
Oh,
It's when the voice in your head takes that neutral event and spins it into a drama. Like, how dare they serve me cold soup? I'm a paying customer. People are always disrespecting me. I'm going to ruin this place on Yelp.
so it's the narrative, the indignation.
Exactly.
How dare they? That narrative doesn't actually heat up the soup. It just makes me feel morally superior to the waiter.
Yes, the ego loves to be right. But to feel right, it desperately needs someone else to be wrong. It uses the waiter's mistake to strengthen its own boundaries. I am the victim. They are the incompetent villain.
Wow.
It gives you a fleeting, highly addictive rush of identity. That is why we secretly love to complain, hold on to resentments, and get into arguments. It defines our edges.
And this brings up a fascinating and honestly slightly terrifying mechanism called the pain body.
Yes, the pain body.
Because all of that indignation, all of those lingering resentments from the past, they don't just vanish, do they? They accumulate.
They absolutely accumulate. The pain body is the accumulation of old emotional pain living inside you. Think of it as a semi-autonomous energy field made of unresolved negative emotions.
That sounds intense.
It is. And just like the ego, the pain body needs to eat to survive.
Yeah.
But it can only feed on energy that resonates with its own frequency. It feeds on drama, sadness, anger, and conflict.
So it's literally an addiction to unhappiness.
Basically, yeah.
When it gets hungry, it will scan your environment for any excuse, like a weird look from your spouse or minor traffic delay, just to trigger a wave of negative emotion.
Have you ever been in an argument where you realize halfway through that you don't even care about what you're arguing about anymore, but you just can't stop?
Oh, unfortunately, yes. Many times.
That is the pain body taking over. It has hijacked your mind to feed on the emotional turmoil.
Which explains so much about our digital world today. I mean, the entire internet economy is basically a catering service for the pain body.
That's a perfect way to put it.
We literally pay money to sit in dark theaters and watch people murder each other on a screen for entertainment.
Hmm.
Or look at social media. The algorithms are specifically designed to show us things that make us outraged.
They know what keeps us clicking.
Right. We endlessly scroll, actively seeking out content that makes us furious. We are basically feeding the parasite.
When you step back and observe our media consumption and our social interactions objectively, it is a form of collective madness. We are actively seeking out suffering.
Mhm.
But because everyone around us is doing the exact same thing, we just assume it's normal human behavior.
Okay, so if this virus is everywhere, I mean, it's driving our global history, our shopping habits, our relationships, our internet usage, what is the way out?
The big question.
How do we escape the ego? Do we have to declare war on our own minds and try to violently suppress our thoughts?
See, doing that would be falling right back into the ego's trap.
Why is that?
Because the twist here is that you cannot fight the ego and win. Fighting requires an enemy, which creates conflict, which is exactly what the ego uses for fuel.
Oh, right.
If you try to fight the ego, you are just creating a new egoic identity, the identity of the spiritual warrior fighting the bad mind. You don't fight the darkness, you simply turn on the light.
There's a fantastic story about how Tolle himself experienced this realization.
Oh, I love this story.
Yeah, he was a graduate student in London taking the subway, and he kept seeing this woman on the train who appeared completely insane. She was constantly talking out loud to herself, arguing with people who weren't there, just verbalizing a continuous stream of angry grievances.
He would watch her, feeling this mix of pity and horror, thinking, I hope I never lose my mind and end up like her. He viewed herself as a highly rational, intellectual student.
Right.
But then one day, he walks into a university bathroom, starts washing his hands, and catches himself thinking that exact thought, I hope I don't end up like her. But he realizes he didn't just think it, he actually mumbled it out loud.
That is the ultimate mirror moment. He looks at himself and realizes his mind is doing the exact same thing hers is doing. It's incessantly active, completely involuntary, and fully compulsive.
Yeah.
The only difference was the flavor of the emotion.
Mhm.
Hers was anger, his was anxiety, and the fact that she thought out loud while he usually kept his thoughts trapped in his head. He realized, if she is insane, then I am insane too.
But the real magic of that moment was in the recognition. When he realized what his mind was doing, he was able to step back and observe it. He actually laughed out loud at the absurdity of it in that bad
They
dream.
just laughed at it.
Yeah, that laughter, that moment of pure observation was the arising of true awareness. He had successfully disidentified from the voice.
So how do we replicate that? Because we can't all just wander around London subways waiting for an epiphany.
Luckily, we don't have to.
The beauty of this approach is that it gives us incredibly simple, practical exercises to start observing the mind. And you don't do these on a meditation cushion. You do them during your routine, boring daily chores.
Exactly. The first practice is feeling what is called the inner body. It's incredibly straightforward. You can do it right now while listening or later when you're waiting in line at the grocery store.
Okay, how do we do it?
Shift your attention entirely away from the thoughts in your head and try to feel the physical sensation of aliveness inside your hands. Don't look at them, just feel them from the inside.
If you try it, you really can feel it. It's this subtle tingling, a faint hum of energy in your palms and fingers.
By directing your absolute focus to the physical sensation of the inner body, you are actively withdrawing your consciousness from the mind. You are starving the ego of its attention.
That makes sense.
You break the compulsive stream of thinking, even if it's just for 10 seconds. You anchor yourself firmly in the present reality of your physical form rather than the mental abstraction of your thoughts.
The second exercise is just as simple, conscious breathing.
Yes.
You don't need a month-long silent retreat for this. Just take one single conscious breath. Feel the physical sensation of the air moving through your nose, filling your lungs, and leaving your body. That one breath creates a gap. It forces a pause in the relentless conveyor belt of mental chatter.
And the third exercise is perhaps the most revealing. It's about catching the background unhappiness during your daily chores.
Oh, this one is huge.
Start noticing those moments of subtle impatience or low-level irritation. Notice what your mind does when you are washing the dishes or when you're stuck in traffic.
Commuting is the absolute worst for this. I always have this underlying buzz of, I don't want to be doing this, I just want to be home.
Exactly. Pay attention to that buzz. Recognize that feeling for what it actually is. It is the ego resisting the present moment.
Resisting the present.
The ego hates the present. It always treats now as merely a means to an end, an annoying obstacle to overcome, or sometimes an outright enemy. When you catch your mind doing that, when you notice the impatience, you have suddenly separated yourself from the ego.
Because I'm watching it.
Yes. You are no longer the impatience, you are the awareness observing the impatience.
It makes me think of spending your entire life sitting in a dark movie theater, totally absorbed in the film. You think the explosions, the drama, the arguments on screen are real life.
Right.
Doing these exercises like feeling the tingling in your hands, taking a conscious breath, catching your own impatience, they are the equivalent of suddenly turning your head and noticing the blank white screen that the movie is being projected onto.
Oh, that's good.
You suddenly realize, wait, I'm not the movie. I am the silent awareness watching the movie.
That is a beautiful way to visualize the shift. You move from being the content of your mind to being the space in which the content happens. And that brings us to the ultimate payoff. What actually happens when you start noticing the screen instead of the movie?
You find actual freedom. The conclusion here is just incredibly empowering. The very moment you recognize the ego operating in you, the exact second you catch yourself taking the cold soup personally, or feeling the urge to buy something just to look cool, or feeling that defensive flare-up in an argument, that recognition means you are no longer the ego.
That is the paradox that changes everything.
Yeah.
The ego implies complete unawareness. It requires you to be asleep at the wheel. The moment you are aware of it, it ceases to be you. It becomes just an old, conditioned mind pattern playing itself out.
So the light is on.
Exactly. The recognition of the false is the arising of the real. The light has been turned on, and the darkness naturally begins to dissipate.
And the relief there is that you don't have to become some perfect enlightened saint who never gets annoyed.
No, not at all.
That's a huge burden lifted. You just have to notice when you get annoyed.
Knowledge only changes our lives when we apply it. So the invitation here is simple. The next time you feel a surge of anger or the desperate burning need to prove you are right in an argument, just pause and observe it.
Watch it happen.
Watch the identity thief try to grab the steering wheel. By simply watching it with curiosity instead of judgment, you drain its power over you.
It really is that simple. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to turn over in your mind as you go about the rest of your day. We started all of this by asking if you've noticed that relentless complaining voice in your head.
The one that never stops.
Right. But if you practice these tools and you finally realize that this constant complaining voice in your head isn't actually you, then who or what is the silent presence listening to it?